Right. So we're diving into something pretty relatable today, family time. Well, more specifically, how to kind of make the most of it. In 2025, that is, you sent over this really interesting list. It's called 2025 Family Bucket List, 12 fun monthly activities to bond and grow together. Love the energy.
Ambitious.
Right. So it's like the whole year all mapped out with an activity for each month. You've got vision boards in January, then it's family game nights in February, even a whole talent show in September.
Wow.
Yeah. And I gotta say, those why it's great sections, they really got me. It's not just like checking things off.
Right.
It's about like the deeper why. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like planting a garden in March, that's not just growing tomatoes, right?
So much more to it.
Yeah, it's connecting with nature, showing the kids where their food comes from. I bet you could even sneak in some life lessons along the way.
Oh, yeah. Patience, responsibility, all that good stuff.
Exactly. And then there's the talent show, who doesn't love a bit of family fun.
Yeah.
But it's also encouraging creativity, right? Building confidence, maybe even helping someone get over that fear of public speaking. It's got layers.
Lots to unpack there.
It really does. So, you're the expert here when it comes to family dynamics and all that. What strikes you about these kinds of activities, like in terms of actually making those family bonds stronger?
What's fascinating, really, the balance they've got in this list between like structured stuff and then total freedom, that's impressive.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so take game night in February, right?
Yep.
There's rules, there's a goal, maybe a little healthy competition going on.
Right. Makes sense.
Teaches kids about taking turns, good sportsmanship, how to handle disagreements, but in a safe way.
It's like a learning opportunity disguised as fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you've got something like that June picnic, which is way more go with the flow. It's all about just connecting naturally, chatting, just enjoying being together. No agenda. Both are valuable, just different ways to connect.
That's true. I hadn't thought about it like that.
And get this, if you look closer, they've even catered to different learning styles.
Oh, wow. How so?
Think about it. The vision board, that's for your visual learners, right? Gardening, that's hands-on learning by doing. And the talent show.
Oh.
Hello, kinesthetic learners. It's subtle, but brilliant how it taps into all those different personalities you find in a family.
You're right. I didn't even pick up on that. But it makes so much sense thinking about how different family members might, engage with the activities.
Exactly. It all comes back to what makes these things so powerful, the shared experience. And then the conversations that come out of that, even a simple picnic. If you got the right stories, the laughter, it becomes a core memory.
It's true. Some of my favorite childhood memories are from like the simplest outings just because we were all together.
Exactly. So I'm curious, anything on this list sparking a personal memory for you? These kinds of lists always seem to do that, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. Seeing camping under July took me right back. Every summer, we'd pile into the car, head out to who even knew where half the time. It wasn't always pretty, let me tell you.
Oh, I bet. Leaky tents, that kind of thing.
Oh, you name it. Leaky tents, questionable campfire cooking. But those are some of the most vivid memories I have. Just being outdoors, telling stories around the fire, that sense of adventure.
Right. Those experiences, even the ones that maybe didn't go to plan.
Oh, especially those. Those are the ones that really stick with you, you know?
Yeah, really do.
And that's what I love about this whole list. It's not a rule book, it's a jumping off point.
It's springboard, yeah.
Exactly. It gets you thinking beyond just the activity itself. Like, okay, visiting a pumpkin patch in October, that's fun, right? But what if...
Pray it's a but coming, what if?
What if you turned it into this whole pumpkin carving competition?
Ooh, I like where this is going.
Right. Like everyone comes up with these elaborate backstories for their pumpkin. There's a prize for the most creative design. Maybe even some, friendly trash talk going on.
Yes. Suddenly you've got a tradition on your hands.
Yes, exactly. Something everyone looks forward to all year.
That's how you build those family rituals, the things that bond you over time. And you're right, it doesn't have to be complicated. Maybe you try that gratitude jar thing in November.
Yeah, the gratitude jar.
And it's a total flop. Nobody's writing anything down. It's just gathering dust.
Happens to the best of us.
Right. Don't force it. Maybe what works better for your family is like a gratitude walk after dinner. Everyone shares one good thing from their day. It's about finding what clicks with your family's own culture, their thing, what they enjoy. Forcing family fun is never fun.
So true. It's like you said, this list, it's not a prescription.
It's an invitation.
Yeah.
An invitation to experiment. Figure out what brings your family closer and then make it your own.
Such a good point. And it's easy to get caught up in doing things a certain way, but the real beauty is finding what works for your family.
100%. And you know what? Research actually backs that up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Studies show families that regularly DO stuff together, meaningful stuff.
Yeah.
They say there's better communication, more trust. They're just happier overall.
That makes total sense.
It's not just the activity, it's the investing in that shared time. That's what makes the difference.
It really is. And, it's not even just about those long-term benefits either. It's about the joy, right?
Yeah.
The laughter, those little moments of connection you get when you're really present with the people you love.
Exactly. There's a reason why those small memories could have a silly inside joke,
Mm,
a shared moment of triumph. They become the ones we cherish most.
it's true.
It's like they're the threads that weave together the whole tapestry of family life.
Love that analogy. You've given us a lot to think about already, and we're just getting started. But before we dive into each activity and how to, maximize them, I think we got to address the elephant in the room here.
Yeah, what's that?
Finding quality family time, it's not always easy, especially with how busy everyone's lives are these days.
You're telling me work, school, extracurriculars for the kids. It can feel impossible to juggle it all sometimes.
Exactly. So how do families make it work?
Well, that's exactly why approaches like this list, they can be so helpful. It's a framework, right? A place to start when you're trying to carve out that time. And it's not about piling more onto your plate because everyone's plate is already overflowing.
So true.
It's about being intentional with the time you do have.
Oh,
Even small moments, they can be powerful if you're intentional.
love that. Intentional moments. So it's not about grand gestures. It's about making the everyday stuff count.
We can go. Could be as simple as having dinner together, no phones, reading a bedtime story, or even just a walk around the block, but you're actually talking, really talking. When you approach those moments with intention, that's how the everyday becomes meaningful.
You've given us so much to think about already. I love these deep dives. We always end up with way more than we started with. So we've got this list of 12 activities. We've talked about being intentional, finding what works for our families. But before we dissect each one and brainstorm how to make them even better, I'm curious, are there any on this list that really stand out to you? Ones that seem like they have the most potential for really strong family bonding?
Oh, that's a good question. Honestly, it's hard to pick just one, They've got some really good ones on here.
Right.
But if I had to narrow it down, I'd say that vision board in January, that's a good one. And then that family volunteering in August, those two really stand out.
Okay.
We talked a bit about the vision board already, but I think it's worth saying again, it's really powerful for setting intentions as a family.
Yeah.
Getting everyone involved and making this visual thing with all their hopes and dreams for the year, it can be really unifying.
Right.
And it's not just about, pinning up pretty pictures. It's about those conversations that happen while you're doing it,
Definitely.
about what really matters to each person.
Yeah.
And then, as the year goes on, you can look back at it together.
Oh, I like this.
Celebrate what you've achieved, support each other in going after those goals. It's great. And you mentioned family volunteering.
Yeah, I did. That one, to be honest, didn't jump out at me right away. But I'm curious to hear more. Why'd you pick that one?
Well, volunteering together as a family, it's a unique chance to connect with each other while you're also doing some good in the world.
Okay.
It's about shifting your focus outwards for a bit, working together towards something that helps other people.
Right.
And the best part is, there's so many ways to volunteer. You can definitely find something that fits with your family's values, whatever's important to you.
I'm sure, yeah.
Could be serving meals at a shelter, cleaning up a park, visiting older folks at a nursing home.
Those are all good ones.
Yeah. And when you volunteer together, you're showing your kids what empathy looks like, compassion,
Right.
teaching them about social responsibility,
Yeah.
putting it into action.
You know what? You're right. I remember doing some volunteering with my family when I was a kid, and it always felt different,
Right.
special. There's something really rewarding about working together towards something bigger than yourselves.
Absolutely. There's a sense of accomplishment in
Yeah.
it. And, research even shows that volunteering, especially with your family, it's got tons of benefits.
Right.
Makes family bonds stronger,
Mhm.
helps with communication,
Wow.
teaches kids important life skills like empathy, teamwork, problem solving.
So it's good for everyone involved, basically.
Pretty much. And for kids, it could be so empowering to realize they can actually make a difference, no matter how small.
Mm.
It gives them the sense of agency, of responsibility, reminds them that they're part of something bigger.
It's like that saying, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others.
Right.
Volunteering together just seems to embody that.
100%. Okay, so thinking about all these activities, we've got to talk about something important.
What's that?
Is there anything families should, keep in mind to make sure these experiences are actually meaningful, that they're not just another thing on the to-do list?
Oh, that's a really good point, because it's easy for good intentions to turn into, obligations if you're not careful.
Exactly. One thing I always say is be flexible,
Yeah,
be adaptable,
right.
because life happens, right? Schedules change. Sometimes things just don't go to plan,
All the time.
right? And that's okay. The important thing is to be open to changing things up. If an activity isn't working for your family at that moment,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to adjust it or even completely ditch it. What matters most is that you're connecting, not that you're sticking to some rigid schedule.
Makes sense. It's like we talked about before. This list is an invitation, not a prescription.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Find what works for your family and don't be scared to try things out. See what happens.
So flexibility is key. Anything else families should keep in mind?
Let me think. Oh, this is a big one. Create space for real, genuine connection within these activities. It's easy to get so caught up in the logistics,
Oh, yeah, the planning, the who's doing what.
Right. You forget about the why you're doing it in the first place.
It's easy to do.
So, for example, say it's family game night, right?
Yeah.
You've got the games all set up, the snacks are ready. But what really matters is that everyone feels comfortable just being themselves, that the laughter comes naturally, the conversation.
It's about that feeling of togetherness.
Yes. Put the phones away, silence the notifications, and just be present with each other. Ask questions, listen to each other's answers. Just be fully there in that moment.
It's so important what you're saying. We're
Yeah.
constantly bombarded with distractions these days, so intentionally creating those pockets of tech-free connection, it's more important now than ever.
100%. And it's not just about limiting distractions during the activity itself either. It's about having a family culture where open communication is valued, where you listen to each other, really listen, where that genuine connection is a priority.
This reminds me of something you mentioned earlier about how important it is to have those shared experiences and the conversations that come from them. How can families encourage those meaningful conversations to happen more naturally? What are your thoughts on that?
It really is, yeah. It's not enough to just be there,
Yeah.
physically in the same room.
Yeah.
It's got to be deeper than that.
Right. It's about actually connecting.
Exactly. And one way to encourage those real conversations is to be intentional about the questions you're asking.
The questions.
Instead of just the usual, how was your day? Try something like, what was the most interesting thing you learned today? Or tell me about a time you felt proud of yourself this week.
Oh, I like that.
Even simple things like, what are you grateful for today? Or what are you looking forward to? Those can spark some really incredible conversations.
It's true. I found that myself, even just with friends.
Right. It's like you're giving permission for those deeper conversations to come out naturally, just by asking the right questions.
It creates that space for it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not even just about the questions themselves. It's about creating that safe space where those conversations can actually happen.
Right, where people feel comfortable sharing.
Exactly. It's about putting aside judgments, listening with empathy, really trying to get where the other person is coming from.
It sounds like what we're really talking about here is mindfulness, really being present, engaged, intentional in how we interact with our families, even if it's just a regular conversation, not even a big activity.
Yeah, that's it. Mindfulness is so key to creating those meaningful moments. It's about savoring the experience, noticing the small things, just being there with the people you love.
So well said. This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I always learn so much from our deep dives. We started with this simple list of activities, and look where we ended up.
Right.
Intention, flexibility, shared experiences, mindfulness. Who knew there was so much to unpack when it comes to family time?
It's amazing what you discover when you start digging deeper, isn't it?
It really is. So as we wrap up here, is there one big takeaway you hope our listeners walk away with today?
If there's just one thing you remember from all of this, it's that building those strong family bonds, it doesn't have to be some big, complicated thing. It really is about those small, everyday moments of connection, the ones you weave into your daily life.
So it's not about the big trips or fancy outings.
Not necessarily. Those could be great, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's more about the little things.
Okay, I'm with you.
So take those suggestions from the list, absolutely. Try them out, make them your own. But more importantly, just approach your family time with intention. Be present and bring that love, you know?
Beautifully said. That's a great note to end on. Out of all these fantastic activities we talked about, which one really resonated with YU, and how can you take it to that next level? Make it your own, create a lasting memory with your loved ones. That's something to think about. Until next time, everyone, happy bonding.